Good morning, First World. How you guys doing today? How you guys doing today? You doing better? I'm gonna wake you up right now, all right? How you guys doing? I see somebody who's been hanging out last night. I want to wake you guys up. First and foremost, I want to thank the faculty, the staff, the administrators here at SUNY New Paltz. I definitely want to thank the First World Committee. I want to thank my wife, Nancy, and my daughter, Zoe, right there, because they drove 5 hours with me from Maryland yesterday, and they didn't complain not once, so thank them as well. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the First World graduates of 2015 for having me here. Thank you for letting me be a part of the last chapter here for you at SUNY New Paltz. But most importantly, thank you guys so much for letting me be a part of this new chapter that you're starting today at this particular moment, this new life that you have. I'm here today to let you guys know that all things are possible. You hear me? All things are possible. Never in a million years would I thought when I was sitting in your seat that I would be returning to the State University at New Paltz to provide the commencement speech to the First World graduates of 2015. So I am living proof that all things are indeed possible. All of the things that was mentioned in my introduction, none of those things, I could not have accomplished any of those things without my education, particularly from the State University of New York College at New Paltz. This is always my foundation. My best friends are from New Paltz. My best man was my best friend was from New Paltz. He's my daughter's godfather. I was his best man. He was my best man. And it's 20 years later. The story continues to go on, right? It's just amazing to be here. Before I came to New Paltz, I was a young boy living in the housing projects in Brooklyn, New York, in East New York. East New York. Brooklyn is always in the house, right? My days were spent in a small apartment by myself, while my two older brothers would roam the streets and my mother would be off to work at the hospital. She worked at Lenox Hill Hospital. I was lonely and bored, and the only thing that I could do to occupy my time was look out of my project window. I lived on the 11th floor. If you know anything about East New York, I lived very closely to JFK Airport. So when the planes flew by, my apartment would shake all the time. So I would look out of the window and imagine the type of lifestyle that I wanted for myself, that I'm actually living today. The planes flew by so frequently that I knew the schedule of the times of the planes as they flew by. I could differentiate a plane from a 747 to a single engine propeller. Definitely. I love New Paltz. And I first fell in love with New Paltz in 1985. I'm dating myself, right? But I was 12 years old. And I came here because my older cousin, he was a theater major, and he was the lead. He had the lead role in A Raisin in the Sun. And for many of you guys that have family members that are older than you, that you look up to, they could do no wrong. So everything that he touched in my eyes, it turned to platinum. Right? So when I can remember coming up to this place, to this campus, and I'm looking around and I see Mount Mohawk's, just the presence that Mount Mohawk had, just towering over everything, right? I've never seen anything that beautiful before. All of the colors from the trees and just the smells, I could remember it like it was just yesterday. It was a far cry from my projects in East New York. When we left campus, he gave my mother and I this bright, bold orange coffee mug. And on it was these inscriptions in blue. In the middle of the circle, it said, founded in 1948. Around it in the circle, it says State University, College at New Paltz. Then it said, to learn, to search, to serve. How do I know this by heart? Because I studied that cup for 6 years. And now that cup was a symbol of inspiration for me to know where I wanted to go. Because when I looked out of that project window, I would look down and I would see folks in my community hustling, drinking, using drugs. But then when I looked up at that plane, I wanted to know to myself, Where were people going on that plane? What are they doing? Because one day I want to go on that plane and I want to see those things that those individuals are seeing for themselves. So today, this is so monumental for you. This is a defining moment in your life that you will never forget. And you guys are someone else's inspiration in your family, in your household, your friends, folks in your community. Everything that you touch, you're turning to platinum in somebody else's eyes. So the choices that you make could definitely impact the choices that somebody else makes. So just the smallest gesture of giving someone a coffee mug would impact their life. So not taking that for granted as well. So growing up in East New York, it was a dark place during the 1980s. I mean, glass was on the ground. Like I said, it was the crack epidemic was huge during that time. We were on curfews. We couldn't go to the park after 6 p.m. because the drug dealers said that they would shoot us. We maybe got shot by just straight bullets if we did go to the park. So just looking out of my window, I did have to make that choice. It's important to set those goals for yourself. In life, we all have goals. Today, we have a goal. Let's just think about it. So when this commencement is over today, we all know that we're going to go and get something to eat. I know I am. I'm going to get something to eat, right? But it's like, where do we want to go and get something to eat, right? So where we're going to go to get something to eat, we know that it has a path to get to that destination. So that destination that we want to go is our goal. Okay, so just knowing those particular steps that we need to take to get to that goal is definitely important for us to remember, because I know that you have friends that may not have made it to college, but they have dreams as well. They said, hey, I'm going to be a rapper, or hey, I'm going to start my own business, I'm going to start my own clothing line, but they have no route to get to that destination. So having a destination, you have to know what route that you're going to take to get to that point within your life. Sometimes life will force you to have a goal, to set a goal, okay? Because 4 years after I came to SUNY New Paltz to see my cousin and raising in the sun, my mother died. She died of diabetes, and I was alone. I was afraid. I was in this small apartment by myself. It was the summertime. It was just really hot. I was depressed, and I'm sitting there on the side of my bed, and I'm just thinking that, I don't want to get up. I don't want to leave. I just kind of want to wallow in my own misery. But then I think about my mother, and I think about all of the things that she instilled in me from 0 to 16 years old. And I knew that what I had to do within my life was just not only for me, it was also for her memory. So I stopped being sorry for myself. And I wanted to do something different in my life. Let me hear you say different. Different! You gotta do something different in your life, right? You gotta just get up and stop feeling sorry for yourself, because like the previous speech folks said today, is that, yeah, you're gonna have some hard times, but you're also gonna have positive times, great times. But that's just like the battery, right? If you think about a battery, it has a positive and a negative charge. And when you plug it into whatever device you're using, it's giving you energy. Right, so you got to focus on how can this negative component get turned into something positive for yourself. So at that time, I used to write a lot of raps, and growing up in the 80s, I wanted to be an MC so much, right? I wanted to live out my dreams, but I found out how cathartic it was for me, how therapeutic it was for me to just write my feelings down and share it to people to a beat, and how they would just be embraced and just give me just love in terms of the words that I said and the experiences that I shared. But change, it can be hard. So whether it's the death of a loved one, whether it's a change of a job, whatever it is, change can definitely be hard, but it's inevitable. So I can remember when I was at New Paltz, when I was a student, when I first started, when I came through the Educational Opportunity Program, we had that 6-week program. I was talking to Tony Bonilla about that. And we had a 6-week program where we really were getting familiar with how was it to be away from campus and just live that campus life. And I had many of my classmates, they would complain about how quiet it was here at New Paltz. Man, it is so quiet, man, this is boring. Right? I want to go back to the city, and many of them did. They went back to the Bronx, to Manhattan, to Brooklyn, and they just totally gave up on this opportunity called the educational opportunity. They just quit on themselves. People can allow change to totally impact their life in a negative perspective. That change that they had in terms of leaving the inner city and coming upstate New York, they couldn't manage it, right? So they used that change as an excuse. The reality, folks, particularly class of 2015, is that change is inevitable. It's not if change is going to happen, it's when change is going to happen. And what are you going to do when that change happens for you or to you? Back in the late 80s, I was working at Jive RCA Records. I was a street messenger. And when I was on this journey to try to do something different and try to change my life, I used to walk around to deliver my messages and on Park Avenue and Columbus Circle. And I used to see some really wealthy people out there, right? So I used to really study these individuals, doing my own research, if you will. So I would look at them and say, hey, what are they dressing like? You know, what kind of music are they listening to? What kind of cars are they driving? I was really just hungry. And I was working in this mailroom, and I met this gentleman. He was actually an engineer, and his name was Major Little. And they were doing, yeah, it's an oxymoron, right? Major Little. And they were doing some construction on his record studio that week. So they deployed him to come down to the messenger's quarters, to the mailroom, and work with me and my colleagues. So I'm thinking to myself, wow, this guy's a record engineer. I'm a rapper. This is a no-brainer. He's going to help me to get out of the ghetto, right? He's going to be my ticket out. I'm going to be famous from him. Another one of my coworkers, they talked to him and they told him that my mother had passed away the year before. It was this man, Major Little, who I only worked with for 5 days, who told me about the Educational Opportunity Program. And when he told me about the EOP, I absolutely couldn't believe it. Have any of you guys ever had somebody tell you something so good that you could not even believe them? And you had to ask them, like, come on, are you lying? Like, you cannot be true, right? He says, man, they will pay for you to go to school. They will pay for your books. They will even pay you to go. I mean, how much of a blessing is that? So although Major didn't get me signed to Jive RCA, he still was able to provide me with that ticket out of my community. And for him, I'm forever grateful about that. I can remember writing my personal essay letter and just vividly describing the pain that I felt when my mother died and just living in my community and how badly I wanted to leave that community. And I also described the Darwinism that I experienced in East New York as well. And I remember writing, East New York is similar to a war zone. Instead of a lullaby, a child is constantly put to sleep every night by repetitious gunshots. I felt that. You know, that was real for me. I mean, this was the days back in the 80s when there wasn't computers and laptops. Like, I had to run to the local library 4 blocks away and type my essay. And as I went back home, I would get more ideas in terms of how to embellish this essay and make it better. Come back, write it down, go back there, use whiteout, and make that letter. I was so hungry for more.